Thanks so much. My name is Ashley Seiler. I am the Chief Partnership Officer for Big Brothers Big Sisters of Eastern Missouri. And I've been at the agency for just over 21 years, working alongside some amazing staff and partners. So I'll throw it to Bryce for an introduction.
Hey, everybody, I'm Dr. Bryce Beck, Deputy Superintendent for Cape Girardeau Public Schools. This is my second year in this role, working at central office to support our district staff and students. Prior to this, I was a building level administrator at the high school, just also here in Cape at Central High School for 5 years. And then this is right at 15 years total in public school education for me. So I'm super excited about the direction we've gone in our district with Big Brothers and Big Sisters, and it's been a joy to work with their organization.
So, when most people think of Big Brothers Big Sisters, they think of the mentoring that we do, and it's absolutely the core of our work. Our mission is really to partner with young people in their pursuit of a meaningful, stable, and independent life. And we've grown in the ways in which we do that. So again, most people think of the one-to-one mentoring relationship where you have a volunteer mentor who is matched to a youth in our community and they spend time, and we still most certainly do that, but we've really expanded our role in recognizing that young people need us in a lot of different ways and a lot of different stages of their life. And so we've been really creative in coming outside of the one-to-one mentoring relationship and really starting to focus on some one-to-many kind of programs that will allow us to really further our reach in light of what's happening in our communities and in light of what our youth and families within our communities need as well. So one of the ways we do that is partnering with schools and really a collaborative model to bring community partners together, recognizing that Big Brothers Big Sisters can't match every young person within our community with a volunteer, but really how can we support the students where they're at schools and bring other partners along with us to really do that. So right around 15 years ago, probably when our partnership started, we really try to focus on like how are we impacting young people really with their academic success. And the first partner that we came to was our schools to say in order to do that we really need great data, and it really changed the course of our work. Our conversations with our young people and their families looked a lot different than how are things going at school. It started to transition into how can we support you better in your academic success, being able to see really with the data where young people were challenged in different ways. So we started collecting that attendance behavior and course performance data in math and reading, and really named this program ABC Today. And then fast forward a bit, our school leaders said to us, like, this is amazing that you're looking at this, but you work with about 250 kids and we have 4,000 in our district. So how can we like together create a collaborative model that will really impact all students within our district, right? Really, you guys staying in your lane and doing mentoring, but then also how do we bring other people to this conversation? You all are great at data, and collective impact work wasn't our work at the time, but because they had been such a great partner to us, we said, yes, we'll do this with you. We'll figure this out with you. We have a vested interest in the kids within those buildings having great success. How can we just add to that? So we started that, 12 or 13 years ago, and it's been really an amazing experience ever since. We've been able to like see how we grow. We have what we call an ABC Today network, where we, for each of the 9 schools in Cape Girardeau where we started this, we have a group of community partners that come together quarterly to really assess how they can provide more support to each of the schools they're assigned to, how they can become more involved in each of the schools that they're involved with, and really how do we look at that data together and make data-informed decisions around what we're seeing. So it's been really, really cool. Not only has the work happened in Cape, but we've went all over Eastern Missouri. So Cape has sort of been the pioneers for the rest of our region, which is inclusive of St. Louis area as well. And so we've been able to expand into 17 schools, over 5 different school districts, and really was based out of the work. But I want to say is that work didn't stop. When we started doing that, we've continued to evolve in the work and really see how else can we continue to meet the school and the needs that the students within the schools have. So a couple of the other things that we've started to do is that we've identified that group mentoring is a new model for us. And Cape again was really our first partner in that. And now we're launching into some additional work that I'll let Dr. Beck talk about. It's really exciting for our agency, and it's been exciting to see how much the school has embraced really how we can support them and continue to move the needle in supporting not only the schools but the students and families within them.
Thank you, Ashley. First, I think our relationship has flourished over the years, especially just during the time between my transition from a building principal to working as a superintendent in the district, primarily because our mission, excuse me, our mission is the same. I mean, we're here to help people and put them on pathways to be successful later in their life, whether that's post-secondary, industry work, they're going to college, whatever it may be. But it's just about connecting people throughout the school community. And essentially, that's what we're all doing. We're connecting people with other people that can help them be successful moving forward. So I think the first thing that comes to mind when anybody mentions Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and CAPE is obviously mentoring, right? That's the first thing that hits home for everybody. That's been highly successful. There's been an expansion of our mentoring programs over the past 3 years. So we actually have mentoring occurring all the way through the entire secondary level. It's not just isolated anymore. It's more of that cohort model where mentors are working with their kids as they progress through the grade levels. And then probably the most exciting thing we're doing right now is brainstorming with Ashley and her team. We developed what we call the connectedness survey model. So we actually piloted this last year for the first time, and we surveyed a group of junior high and a group of high school students. For high school, that only included 1 grade level at the time, which was, the lower grade level transitioning newer into the building. That has evolved into now we are surveying all secondary students, grades 5 through 12. And the connectedness survey is very intentional in its design to see if kids have people they consider trusted adults throughout the district. It focuses on that, and it focuses on recognizing those people, whether that's teachers or classified staff members, counselors, administrators. The other 2 big areas it focuses on is involvement in extracurricular and after-school activities, and then also resources and whether they have resources they need to be successful. That has been a huge success across the district. We have now had a full year of implementing surveying every student grades 5 through 12. So that's hitting, roughly over 2,500 kids across the district. We're able to share that data back with Ashley and her team, where we can get staff in communication with those kids they're connecting with, and they can also be highlighted and recognized for those relationships they're building. But it also allows us to learn which kids we need to be focused on enhancing the relationship with to make sure they're going to be, successful moving forward across the district. This was our first year, 3 cycles of data coming in. We're averaging over 70% of either students with trusted adults, knowing where resources are available, or being involved in after-school programming at this point. But that's giving us the feedback we need to continue to get better moving forward. And also, this was, the initial full year rollout was this year. We're improving how we go about collecting the data, getting the team's feedback so they can have actionable items to follow up on.
Like Dr. Beck said, it's really exciting. From a community standpoint, I think it also sends another message, right? Like we often say kids need us. and all kids do need us, but now we have real evidence that says we have this many kids in this building that need us. It tells a different story to folks, and we're hoping that because of the connections and the community members that are already engaged through our ABC Today networks, that it will be a leverage point for us to include more adults and create more connections for kids, both inside and outside of school. And now we have data to be able to say we're moving the needle or not, and make some very strategic decisions on what kids we put focus on. And there's very much the idea that some students, the school really, has ownership on how they move forward with them. And then there are other students that's like, there are a lot of ways that we can connect them in the community to different partners that we can create some success. So it's been super amazing to see this move forward. We're thinking about how we can do this in other districts. In Missouri, it's now a requirement that school districts try to understand the sense of belonging and connection in school, and each school's doing it a little bit different. But we're really excited to be on the forefront with our pioneers in this work to share it with others. So.
And actually, just to kind of add the last piece you hit on there, there's lots of school districts and there's lots of organizations or partnership groups out there that they say they want to achieve these things, through the work they do. But then when you look at the process that it takes to actually have those outcomes, a lot of times that's where things fall through the cracks in large school districts and large organizations. Ashley and her team have been super diligent we've had follow-up meetings. We have coordinators going out into the building, meeting with the administrative teams on site to review the feedback that we've had. So that's a huge part of why this has been so successful. Obviously, one or just a small group of people can't coordinate this across a district with over 4,000 students where it's happening grades 5 through 12. So her team that is working with each of the buildings has been phenomenal in making sure that's happening.
To that, I think one, the data piece, right? And for us, if you don't have the data, then you don't really know what direction to go. For us, it really informs how we make decisions. And in fact, when we started talking about this connection survey, Dr. Becca and I, last year when he talked about we piloted it, is because we had no idea what this was going to look like. And really, you can't plan for what your response is going to be until you have some sort of idea about what you might be looking at. I said we could have like a majority of the kids that are connected, and that would be super amazing to see. Or we could have the opposite of that. We could start to see that not a lot of kids are connected, and that would mean a whole nother strategy in how we really approach this. I think one of the other things that's really unique in this is just the collaboration that happens, is that we are of the belief that we can't come to the school and say, hey, this is a really good idea. You guys just go do it. They have enough to do, right? We tend to lean on, as a community, our schools for a lot of services that they didn't used to have to provide. So we tend to, kids come to school and that's their primary source of mental health support. That's their primary source of physical health support. It's sometimes their primary support for food stability. And so I also think that we have to be true partners in this. We have to be able to work alongside of our partners, and really true collaboration of saying what part of this can we own, so that it takes it off the backs of the administrators and the school leaders, so that obviously they have some onus in it, but so that this isn't another task on their list. They have a really important job to do, and we don't want to deter that from them. But how can we really support that in a meaningful way? So I think the collaborative piece and the data piece are the two that stick out the most to me, but all of that wraps into how we can prepare students for lifelong success, not just success in the moment, but how do we really prepare them for what's next? Because at some point in time, they're going to leave our schools, and we want them to enter our communities to be able to be ready to work, go into their whatever secondary path they choose, if that's education, whether that's employment, whether that's enlistment in some sort of military. Our agency actually works to track our little brothers and little sisters who do that, but we also know that again, there's a whole lot of kids out there that are going to be graduating, and we want that for our community, not just for our little brothers and little sisters. So I think for us, that's really trying to ensure, how do we create these spaces? How do we create these things that really create hope and a sense of connection and belonging? Because everything that we're seeing and reading from data and research right now is telling us that this is where we need to be putting our focus on, making sure that students feel that sense of belonging, connection, and can find their way. And it's led by them and their voice, not us as adults trying to dictate what happens with them.
Ashley, I 100% agree. I mean, we had these conversations early on. We really didn't know what we were jumping into when we started this. Obviously, we had to pilot it. We didn't know what the results would be, which direction that would take us. But as we all know, buy-in is usually the biggest factor. That's the X factor, is whether the teams buy into what you're trying to do. And when we got the initial results back, and then they saw how meaningful the data could be, that's what kind of changed everything for everybody, because it went from being a conversation about a survey that we're going to have to complete to now people just talk about the connectedness survey all the time. That's when do we get to give that again? When do we get to look at the data and the feedback and, do strategic planning with the team again and things like that. So it's really interesting to see how it evolved so quickly over the last year. But the biggest part is, for me at least, there's this piece that's not truly just measured through the survey, because it affects the culture of the organization. Like that's the piece that you can sense it. You can't truly just put a number on it, but students feeling like they're valued and respected and they have people they trust in the building, and staff feeling like their students, the work they're doing is meaningful to them, that completely changes how people feel when they walk into the school. So that's probably the biggest thing that it doesn't represent on just the feedback we get from the survey. But when you walk through the building and you engage with the stakeholders in there, you can definitely tell the difference it's made. I'll kind of kick off and we can bounce back and forth, Ashley. But the biggest thing for me is just, don't underestimate the importance of listening to the people you serve in your organization, right? So, teachers have a certain way, educators in general have a certain way of thinking about things, but that looks a lot different than the way your students think about things, right? And that was a big piece. I know Ashley talks about this all the time, but it's about getting the students' feedback, the students' perspective, because when we're talking about being involved, participating in extracurriculars, building relationships with people that you would trust when there's an issue and you would go to them, we might think we know what that looks like in our minds, but that probably looks a lot different for, a 13 or 14 or 16-year-old that's attending in our schools. So we sometimes, rather than talking about the ideas we have, we just need to invite them to share theirs.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think that's one of the things that we're learning a lot about, is how do we really center young people? I keep coming back to that, of like, every decision we make should be centered around the young people that we are in service to, and their families, right? That for a long time, I will say, that wasn't always our viewpoint. And we've learned along the way that when you invite them in, it's a much more rich conversation. The other thing that I think is really important in our partnership, that I think sometimes is difficult for schools and community partners, is that like vulnerability of like, this isn't Big Brothers, Big Sisters data. It's actually the school and students data, right? And that they've been very gracious to share that with us and really be vulnerable in that space of saying that, like, we don't have it figured out and we would love your partnership in that. And sometimes that's hard for everybody, right? To, there's a lot of folks who are critical of things that happen within schools. And so it creates that distrust a little bit. And so we've been super fortunate to not just develop the trust, but really to deliver on what we promised also of kind of like Dr. Beck said, like it has to work, like partnerships are a two-way street. Like we're not just here to say, yep, that's great, you go do it. But like, how can we support you? Even whenever we see the data is not, when the data's good, we want to celebrate with you. But when the data's not good, we're going to ride it along with you too. Right. That we're not going to back away from it and say, hey, this is you, not us. Like this is all of us. And it has to continue to be all of us as we advance the work, the good, the bad, and the ugly sometimes. And so I think that's what's really unique about our partnership. And what I appreciate the most is that there is this sense of like vulnerability, so that we're not critical. We may ask questions, and it's really to deeply understand so that we can have a better view and lens and share within our community. I think that's one of the cool pieces of really this collaborative work is now community partners can see the data too, so that when there is something in the community, that a rumbling of like, I can't believe that decision was made, they can come and say, what I need you to know about this is I sit in some of those meetings, and let me tell you about some of the things happening there. So really be advocates, and there's 90 of those walking around in our community here to say, hey, we know we're a part of this, and we see the cool things happening. It's not always going to be great, right? You're not always going to see all of the good stuff. A lot of times the bad stuff is overshadowed, or the good stuff's overshadowed by some of the negative things. So that's really a cool part of this too, is that everybody can be an advocate walking away from this and have a part to play.
For me, that's an easy one. We just developed our new strategic plan that guides all the work we're going to be doing. It's our roadmap for the next 5 years across the district. So it's carrying us all the way until 2028. So we have 3 pillars within our CSIP. It's lead, learn, and elevate, that all focus on different essential pieces of the organization, so to speak. There's about 14 very specific objectives. One big piece of that, when you look at the action items that are outlined in this, actual objectives, is our partnerships with people like Big Brothers Big Sisters, and how we are responding to the needs of students and staff across our district. So that will be guiding all the work we do for the next 5 years. We've been going out doing building visits, sharing what that plan looks like with staff, giving finance updates for the next upcoming years. So we've been having a lot of fun with that. It's really fun to get out into the buildings and get to show people the great work that's going on across the district, because a lot of times they only understand what's going on in their building. So we like to highlight everything going on K-12. But me and Dr. Benya are having a lot of fun doing that right now. And Ashley's actually presented at multiple board meetings with me already this year. And then we're hoping we can break into Massa and share the great work that we're doing with them across the state.
Yeah, so for me, I think it is this continual evolution of how we can be supportive and great partners. We were able to secure some additional funding this year to actually put people in buildings when it was recognized that some students in the buildings didn't have connections. And so those staff were intentionally hired and get up every day and go into the school buildings that Bryce is talking about, and they are there for the development of a connection and to help those students with academic success and to help eliminate barriers that might be, and also a bridge between home and school. So that's really exciting to me. This is the first year that we've been able to do that. I'm really excited to see what the outcomes of that will be, so that we can continue to advance that work in other places and spaces where we know kids need us across our region and across our state.